Our talk today, inshallah, is about the declining number of the righteous among us and its relationship to the closeness of the Day of Judgment. The righteous, as the definitions, are those who are in the right path of Allah willingly, follow the divine guidance of their faith, and their good deed overcome their mishaps and shortcomings. They are the servant of Allah who are overpowering their evil soul and nature to prevail in all circumstances of diseases, poverty, death, and all other trials, becoming a good example in their life and a good memory after their passing. They are people of goodness who bring on goodness all around them. And with their existence, peace, harmony prevails, and society prosper with their conduct. They are righteous, they are good, they spread goodness all around them. And with their conduct, peace and harmony prevail in the society. If the righteous number decrease, their influence in life dissipates and wickedness prevails. Good manners decline, and those who spread mischief become more successful. Imam al-Tabarani narrated that Ibn Mas'ud, may God be pleased with him, said, "The number of the righteous decline through passing and dying, as the wicked remains." And the wicked, those who do not support goodness and do not deny wickedness or evil. Declining the number of the righteous, a prophecy which will materialize as an eventual reality as life goes on, and accompanied with the continual shrinkage of the circle of goodness, leading to a sure sign of the closeness of the Day of Judgment. Imam Ahmad narrated on authority of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, may God be pleased with him, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The Day of Judgment will not arrive. The Day of Judgment will not arrive until Allah takes back His honorable servant of goodness and belief from earth, and only the irrelevant and the sinners remains, those who do not support goodness and do not deny evil." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a condition that has to be materialized before the Day of Judgment. And this hadith clearly indicate and point out the righteous passing and their number decreasing is a condition and a sign of the approaching of the Day of Judgment. The righteous passing little by little is a fact, and in every generation with a larger number than the previous one, while people are absent-minded of that transformation. Imam al-Bukhari narrated on the authority of Mirdas al-Aslami, may God be pleased with him, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The righteous will pass on, one after another, and the irrelevant sinners are left behind, like the residual leftover shells of barley or dates when processed, as Allah does not raise their honor or put any value on them." Dear brothers and sisters, what is important for us to understand and realize that this gradual decrease in the number of righteous among us is only following the wisdom of Allah and His divine plans, and the environment that lead to it, the circumstance of living that lead to it. The overwhelming spread of evil, wickedness, and corruption does not enable the new generation to create similar knowledgeable righteous being in proportion with the number and the substance of the past. The goods pass on, and we cannot replace them with those who are equal to them in value. We find value, ethics, and morals that was prevalent in an older generation decrease in the following generation, and accordingly reflect on the level of goodness and its existence in actual daily affairs of our society. The hard reality We find it rare when an icon among the righteous passes, we find one to replace him in his level of knowledge or his ability to communicate the faith throughout all the society, and accordingly an empty space of knowledge and social application of faith will deviate from the truth. Today, we experience people crying and reminiscing over yesterday and what it did hold of those righteous, knowledgeable, and honorable, and those who add goodness and moral principle in our society. That's a fact we all experience. Today, we confront what was predicted by the Prophet Daniel, may God be pleased with him, as Wahb ibn Munabbih narrated that he said, feeling sorry for a time which will come. That's a prophet. That way back then, he was talking about feeling sorry for a time which will come. You seek the righteous and you don't find any of them, unless you look very close, like finding a seed in the leftover shells which you actually discard after you process that harvest. When you harvest and you process that harvest and you take all the good seeds out, some of this left over, if you go look closely in them, maybe you will find a seed. That's how the declining number of goodness and righteous among us. The righteous decrease and no one takes their place, and with that circle of goodness gets smaller and smaller, as the previous hadith predicted. That circle of goodness will gradually decrease. Now the question, and after you heard these facts, now the questions, two natural questions that should come to everyone's mind of us. So open your heart and open your ear and don't fall asleep on me. Now the question, are we in this period of time going to lose all the righteous and none will exist among us? Is that what you are trying to say, that none of the righteous will exist among us? The second question, are we asked to accept that transformation and do nothing? Or seek to purify our soul, cleanse our heart, and ascend the ladder of goodness to be among the righteous? Are we to accept that the righteous are passing and we don't do anything about it, or actually work on ourselves, ascend the ladder of goodness to be among those who are described of being righteous? Answering these two questions, we say, our teacher, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave us the good news that this ummah is like the rain that descends from the sky. I've been asked for the brothers by the doors to come forward, please, and close the gaps. And when I ask, please move, especially on this right side here, move forward and close the gap, inshallah. This masjid can accommodate more of our number than who are sitting in there. So make room for your brother. Come forward, inshallah. Come forward. So now two important questions. Are we in time going to lose all the righteous and none will exist among us? And the second, are we asked to accept that transformation and do nothing, or seek to purify our soul, cleanse our heart, and ascend the ladder of goodness to be among the righteous? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, give us the answer, as he actually give us the good news that this ummah is like the rain that comes with goodness from the sky. The rain, you will not know where the goodness in it. Is it in its beginning or in the end of it? The Prophet, referring to the Ummah of Muhammad, that you really don't know the goodness, where it will come from, the beginning or the end, giving us hope that inshallah some of us will be among those who are righteous. It is narrated in Al-Musnad that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said what can be translated, goodness and honor. He is praising goodness and honor to those exceptional minority. Exceptional minority. The Prophet was asked, who are they, O Prophet of Allah? Who are they, the exceptional minority that are you talking about? The Prophet replied, good and righteous people, which exist among bad and irrelevant majority. Those who disobey them in goodness are more than those who join him. In another narration, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, describing those exceptional minority, they are the righteous who do good, who do good among plenty of those who are actually wicked and cause wickedness. And also the Prophet talked about this minority, this exceptional minority, saying, those who repair and correct what people spoil of the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Many descriptions of this righteous exceptional minority were narrated, which indicate that they will remain, that they will exist, and there is not a time will be completely absence of their presence. These hadiths indicate the intention is not to deny goodness of the ummah of Muhammad. The intention of this ahadith and the saying of the Prophet is not to deny goodness of the ummah of Muhammad, but only to describe a state of affair of a period of time throughout history that the generation will decline in its goodness and the good people who lives among them. Now we understand what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, wanted to do and wanted to tell all of us 14th century. Now, he said that 14th century ago. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, want to inspire and motivate the willpower of every wise among us. Not all of us will take the wisdom and the word of the Prophet and the hint of the Prophet and apply it to heart. Only the wise among us will actually take these words to heart, inshallah, to work hard to be among those who spread goodness in the time most people are wicked and spread wickedness. This is the hard time that we are going through and we all experience. It is a guidance to do your best to be among the exceptional righteous minority. A call from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, for all of us to be among those exceptional righteous minority and to pay more attention to the closest of your family, to hold on your family, and the honorable among people, to stay with the honorable, to stay with the goodness, to stay with those who actually follow the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is telling us, let no despair or hopeless settle in your heart. Let no despair or hopelessness settle in your heart as we recognize and as we recognize and interact and experience the sinner and the wicked among us. And believe me, they do exist. This guidance is very clear, as it is narrated in Al-Mustadrak on the authority of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, what do you think of a time which is closely coming? The Prophet is saying this 14th century ago. What do you think about a time which is closely coming? People will be detached and separated, the good from the bad. And what will be left is the worst among you, who makes false promises, cannot be trusted, and always at odds. Always at odds. The companion inquired, how we will be, O Prophet of Allah, when this time happen? How we will be? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, replied, you will follow and take what you know and leave behind what you don't know of belief. You will take what you know of the Quran and the Sunnah, and you leave behind all the innovation and all the misguidance and all the changes that's happening on the media, supplying all the new generation with corrupt hadith, corrupt interpretation of hadith, corrupt interpretation of the Quran and the verses of the Quran. Those righteous will hold on what they know of the goodness of the Quran and the Sunnah. They will hold tight on it. You get closer to your inner circle. Again, you stay with the good around you. You stay away from the sinners. And you stay away from the corrupt common state of affair of the masses. You hold on the good and you stay away from the common state of affair of the misery, of the wickedness of the masses. My dear brothers and sisters, be among the righteous few, doing your best to be with them, and do not be a sign of the signs of crumbled good manners and goodness. You would enjoy a good life here on earth and in the hereafter. And the Imam reminding all of us, the hereafter is coming. It's not for us to sit and wait and ponder. It's for time for us now to do, to change, to insha'Allah be on the right path, to insha'Allah do our best to be among the righteous that we inhabit earth insha'Allah. Assalamu alaikum.